Alright, so hopefully you can see this. This is a scan of a moving scan through my little room here. I don't know what those lines on the screen, I don't know if you can see it, but maybe you can see now on the ceiling there's a fan. And then over in this direction right here is the monitors on the wall. And then over here is just all my tools, which is kind of hard to make out. And then in the middle here is me. And I'm moving this LiDAR unit on a tripod dolly. Here, let me swing around and show you that rig. So I don't know if you can see that, but so the LiDAR is sitting on this movable, so it's on this dolly here, tripod that's on wheels. Okay, I hope you can see that. And so we got it in the right orientation for when we're flying, and I can sort of fly it around in the office, and that's what I'm doing. I'm basically moving it from this position here across the room like this over to here, and I'm to get that moving scan. Because it's until I start moving it, you don't actually see the depth of it. So again, up there is the fan on the ceiling. So that fan on the ceiling right there corresponds to that fan up there. And again, there's the monitor there, and the other monitors right here, and me in the middle but see, I'm moving with everything, so that's why I'm blurry. But even so, the stuff on the wall is not very clear. It's hard to tell that there's a table right there. This little thing right here is this scope that I have over here. This thing sitting right here. And so it picks that up. I don't know if it got the lights, so as it scans across there, there's a lot of detail there. Okay, I think you can see the mirror, the magnifying lights. See, there's one right there, and there's another one right over there. All right. Okay, so as I move around and you keep your eye on those, you see those two. There's one right there and one right there. And then as we move around to the other side, you can see right here, which is sort of next to but behind the light, is that GPS, or I mean that scope. So it did pick it up. But one of the things, that's kind of crappy, I suppose, about all this is that, I'm adjusting the movement. I'm trying to keep the dolly straight, and moving at a constant rate of speed, and I'm just feeding into my little routine, how fast I was moving. In this case, I was moving, I covered about 2 meters, and I did it in about 5 seconds, so I'm traveling at a speed of 0.4 meters per second as I captured this. But that's all a rough estimation. Right, I need to have the actual IMU mounted with the with the LiDAR in order to get more accurate movement, so that I can factor all that in. Because especially if we're going to be tilting, and yawing, and pitching, whatever. I'm not probably showing that in the right orientation that would actually happen, but you get the picture. So So, and you can also see that because I'm moving and my estimation, my estimation of movement is kind of rough. The fan didn't really show up very well. Because I'm just adjusting all of my scans at some fixed movement offset, and to try to generate this. Whereas, in the real world, when we're actually doing this, the movement will be more tightly coupled. I'll be measuring it instead of guessing at it afterwards, right? I'll be measuring it from the IMU/INS. But anyway, at least this gives you an idea that we can do this. Now the other thing to notice is that I'm just scanning the full 360 degrees. Obviously, if we were on the bird, we'd only be scanning from 90 down and 90 down here, so that we wouldn't be capturing what's above it. But at this stage, it's just trying to pull it all together so you can see what's going on. The other thing that I guess you could sort of notice in this is that you see right down this line right here, and here there's this triangle. There's this thing showing up, kind of coming up out of the ground, and what that really is that's the tripod, that's holding the LiDAR, because it's traveling with it, right? So it's going to keep measuring it as it goes. Same with me. You can see me. I'm just a blur because I'm actually moving with it as I turn and move the whole rig to get this capture. But anyway, gives you some idea of where we're at and where we're going, what we can do. I mean, it looks pretty cool at this point. Even though it's kind of still pretty rough, it still looks pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, and another thing to notice, I suppose, is that even these monitors, right? It just looks like one big thing rather than three separate ones, which I guess is kind of the truth. I mean, they're very closely mounted together. But in terms of this horizontal resolution as I move through space, it's not great because again, it's just an estimation of my movement. It's me guessing. I mean, it's measured and I clocked it, but still, it's not as precise as it would be, if we were getting the actual motion from the IMU, and I could use that number instead of this, estimated number that I'm using now for this. But again, it does show, that we're at least on the right track, I think. As far as the GPS and stuff is concerned, well, first of all, let me just show you that. I'll just spin around real quick and show you, that. So there's the. I know it's kind of a funky looking rig, but that just shows the Garmin sitting on top of the other antenna that I had, and it's just connected into this board that I have here, right? Basically the GPS plugs into that, and then it gets split out all over the place. Some of it goes to this thing, which allows me to take it into the computer and configure it, and some of it goes down and goes into the LiDAR box plugged in underneath there. Kind of hard to see, but it's plugged in underneath there. There we go, sort of. And also the other thing that is broken out too is this oscilloscope, USB oscilloscope, so that I can get it into the computer, which quickly shows up over on shows up on this screen. You can see that it's running as I'm talking, because I basically just captured this real quickly. The blue pulse is the PPS, and the yellow stuff is the actual NEMA sentence. And then you can see that again that the what goes in there, that cable is from the puck itself. The other side, let's see if I can get some of this stuff out of the way. So the other side, shows where everything's hooked up in there. There's where the GPS goes in, that little wire. And then everything basically that comes out on the Ethernet cable, which is that cable right there, going into the switch. And then coming out of the switch, right, it goes to a bunch of different computers. It goes to that little computer there. It goes to my big computer down there. It also goes to this little Jetson TX1, which is on its own little carrier board that's also been mounted to a plate that I can mount on the bird. This was all set up before we got involved with this LiDAR stuff. This was going to be what I was going to use to do, object detection and use the bird to go find things like cows and whatever. And then this is another TX1 that's actually still sitting in, that's the TX1 itself with the fan and the heat sink on it, sitting on a development board. This is a TX2, looks a lot like the TX1. I mean, exactly like it, really. But it's about 50% faster than the TX1s. Anyway, that kind of gives you a whole overview of where we're at. Okay, just for fun, here's the puck output being directed into VeloView. I'll scan out a little bit, you can maybe see that. And what I'm going to do now is just move it around this room while I record this, so you can actually see, you can see me moving around in here. So it's still, now I'm turning it, I'm rotating it, right? And so what this allows you to see is that, the VeloView, the way the VeloView works, as we're moving through this screen, as I'm moving through this room, you can see what's basically happening. Right? It's this is real time, and so you can kind of get an idea that what I put together as a capture myself and create that one scan. VeloView wouldn't actually do it. It's kicking it up basically one frame at a time, right? So this is what you get when you look at it one frame at a time as I move around in this. But here I'm rotating it. You can see how that scans the whole room, which I probably should try. I probably should get one of those little devices so that I can actually very precisely move this in a circular motion and capture a scan, of the inside of the room, because that's something you wanted to do anyway in the future. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Anyway, there you go. Kind of fun.